So this is my weekly writer's notebook. I made a little cover page for it because I work at a daycare and my kids have cover pages for their notebooks, so I thought I might as well do the same thing. And it makes it look kind of presentable. So on my first page, I have my table of contents. I decided to make a table of contents because it kind of organizes the notebook. So as you can see at the beginning, I have all of my writing entries. And then towards the back of my notebook, I have my discussion notes and my reading notes from each week. So 1 through week 9. So I kind of started my notebook by just writing a narrative about my life. And then while I was reading the Notebook Know-How book, I noticed that she mentioned some really effective strategies for launching the notebooks. So I actually tried those and I wrote them as entries in my notebook. So for example, history of a name, and then writing from a list, and writing from a word. So actually these strategies were very beneficial. And after writing them, I realized that I want to use these in my future classroom. So moving on. So I kind of wrote just an entry for each week on its own page. And so for example, week 4, one of my entries was called Try 10. This is a strategy from the Notebook Know-How book. And basically you write your claim at the top and you write 10 different ways how to write that claim. So I think this is a really effective strategy because it teaches students, it shows them different ways they can write their beginning line from a narrative, which I really want to try in my future classroom. And then going on, for example, this is week 6. Here's my argumentative piece. I edited this one a lot. If I ever show this to students, I can kind of show them that editing is not pretty, it's not neat, it's not organized, but it allows your writing to be very successful. So we must edit our writing. Moving on, here's some poetry that I wrote, week 7. I did a lot of different types of poems. For example, I have like an acrostic poem here, I have a rhyming poem, and then I have a haiku poem. And, I edited it, I wrote all over it, which I want my students to do as well in their writing notebooks in the future. And then so towards the back, I actually kept my class notes back here. So this is week 1. So I usually just wrote down things from the readings that I liked and that I want to use in my future classroom. So for example, I want to create writing journals for each student, and I want to write a prompt on the board each morning, allowing them to write in their notebooks and kind of get their ideas flowing when they first arrive at school. And then here's just my week 2 notes. I wrote things that I really enjoyed from the reading that I want to use in my future classroom, such as different strategies that I want to use and things about those strategies that are really important. So here's my writing journal. And I won't show you every entry because that might be a little bit too much. So I didn't really know a lot about writer's notebooks until I started this writing process and I started reading this book. So growing up in grade school, I always did have a writer's notebook, but I didn't really know the meaning behind them. I just kind of thought they were busy work. I thought they were only used for writing like long narrative entries in them. And I didn't really like that. I thought it was kind of a waste of time. But then after reading this book and going through the process of writing in a writer's journal every day, I kind of realized that this is really beneficial, especially for young students, to practice their words and practice their writing in their writer's notebooks. And I found out that writer's notebook entries don't have to be these super long narrative entries. They can be just a short list, or they can even be like a short poem, and that would be perfect for an entry in a writer's notebook. So while reading the Notebook Know-How book, I learned a lot of effective strategies as well. I actually want to use like most of them in my future classroom. I wrote a lot of them down in my weekly writer's journal. In the very back, just kind of strategies that I want to use. So when I get my own class, I can look through them and just teach all my students the different strategies that I really enjoyed from this book. And in my future classroom, I will definitely have students have their own writer's notebooks. I actually want them to have 2. I want one to be kept in the classroom, and this is where they write down all their entries, and then I'll write prompts on the board each day. So they'll walk in and then they'll just answer the prompts and they'll just keep that in their desk or in their backpack, or in their cubby. And then I want one to send home where they can practice their writing whenever they're at home on the weekends, just for fun, to write anything they really want to get them practicing their words. And I will use a lot of these strategies in my future classroom. Some of my favorite ones were towards the beginning. I really liked writing from a list. I liked the history of a name, and there were a lot of other ones I could mention, but I think that would take too long. So thank you for watching, and I'm really glad that I went through this process of keeping a writer's notebook.